Welcome to our next episode of
Fandom
Family
Chats.
This is a production of Family Fan Clubs on Facebook. You can find us all over Facebook. You can find us all over social media under Fandom Family Chats. Look us up, get dialed in, get plugged in, and get ready to listen to some crazy people talk crazy stuff. Hey guys, welcome back to FFC. I'm Maureen.
I'm Eve.
and I'm Jeanette.
And we are back with our second to last Cruel Summer breakdown. Now tonight we are giving you what has to be our final theories, because it's all over after this. And we'll know how many of us were right, how many of us were wrong. They did kind of flip the script this week, and we've been getting it from a mix of everybody's perspective. But this week it was all Luke's perspective, which was, I thought it was odd the way it was shot. I'm going to be real honest about that. I wasn't a fan of how many like weird random scenes they put in there just for 2 sentences and then they went to something else. I didn't particularly enjoy that.
It's almost like they were saying, we need to build a bridge between this and that. So let's just toss these random scenes to make it make sense. That's kind of what it felt like to me. I'm glad we had them because we did get a few answers, but I mean,
yeah.
It was a lot of information. It was a lot of information. A lot of it I liked though, because I actually liked getting the Luke's perspective, because I was not comfortable hating him as much as I did for the last couple episodes, because I liked him so much to start with. So I just really wasn't comfortable.
I did like that. I think that was smart to do it. I think we did need that information. It felt more choppy than what I'm used to. And it also felt like almost like a tool to be like, haha, you thought you were confused before. Wait till we mess you up now. Is what it felt like.
I mean, mission accomplished though, because everything I said weeks prior, you can go ahead and just forget that those were said, because I feel differently on everything now. Everything. All
right, well, let's jump into, we see that I thought for a second they were going to stick in 1990, and I'm glad they didn't.
Yes.
I think, what do you think the purpose of that was? It did kind of show that Steve wasn't as hard as we've been believing him to be when he's with his wife. He was a good dad. He was a good husband, it seemed like.
I think that's what it was there for probably all of the Chambers, like family men, all the men or whatever, because I think we saw like just sort of just getting to see like Luke and Brett and Megan all playing together and happy. And then, like I said, like you said, we saw Steve kind of being a decent guy who seemed like he was really loving and caring, and maybe just to show that the trauma of losing her is really kind of what changed all of them, was the purpose of that. But I mean, we went straight from that to like jumping straight into like Brent like drowning Luke in the pool and Steve telling him not to be dramatic. So they're definitely different people than they were prior to this when she was still alive.
And they're talking about it too. And actually you can see where Steve tells Luke that he reminds her of their mom. And then Brent gets very particular and starts getting jabs in because he doesn't like that at all.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously feels jealous and whatever it is. I mean, this death has just messed them all up. And I think that's the point of all of this.
And I think we also see Steve, I mean, the same way he talked to Isabella in the summer of 99 is the same way he talked to Luke in September of 99.
You're okay.
Don't be dramatic. Why is this guy working so hard to protect Brent, even at the expense of Luke? Like it doesn't, it's not good, but it makes sense that he would do that at the expense of Isabella, who he has no connection to and doesn't care about her at all. But Luke is his other son. So it feels weird.
It does feel weird, especially if he's saying like Luke reminds him of the mom. Like, why? It seems like it should be the other way around. Like, you would be more protective of Luke, maybe. Or maybe it's just that he just doesn't want to be reminded of her. Or I don't know. There's got to be some sort of like psychological logic there. Like,
it could be that, but at the same time, I feel like it has to be more, because he is, I don't know if unnaturally is the right word, but he is just so unnecessarily hard on Luke. And he just like at the same time, he's making all these excuses for Brent.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, it's no wonder this poor kid has turned out to be such a teenager. I mean, look at who his father is.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, and then like, I think the other thing that we see kind of in the same time frame, September of 99, right around there, shows us that kind of who Luke was maybe prior to some of these other things happening, because we see him hanging out with Megan and Isabella. They're taking a Cosmo quiz, which that brought back some flashbacks. I was like, oh man, I want to take a Cosmo quiz. But and all the guys kind of come up and like want him to go hang out with them, but he like completely blows them off. He's like, no, I'm cool hanging out with you guys. So at this point he's not wanting to be cool like he does later on in front of all these guys. So I think that was a little interesting to see all of that as well.
Well, I think that what that was you could see, because first of all, they keep saying to Luke in later 99, you've changed. And we can see he has. They're saying it like, it's almost like they believe, well, you used to be one of us, even though we can see that he was never really. He preferred to hang out with Megan and Isabella. Yes, he would go out before he started dating either one of them. He would go out with them. But I think the other thing there too is that when they're saying this, and we can see that Luke, his attitude changes as as his dad gets harder and harder and harder with him. He tries to, it's not even that he, at first I was thinking he's trying to conform. He's trying to be who his dad wants him to be. We can see it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
He is desperately trying to pull away from his dad throughout this whole thing. It's an interesting way to show us that and to highlight that that's what he's been doing. When we see him, we were seeing him up until this point. He's just becoming more like Steve. That apple doesn't fall from the tree. He's just going to be like Steve. When that he was trying to do the opposite, but as he tried to do the opposite, he just got darker and darker and darker and darker. So let's move on to October 99. I have one question. Did anyone else think, why in the world did they not go in the front door? Why did they walk the 17 miles around to the back of the house to get into the house? I don't know why that irritated me, but it did.
I didn't think about that, but now I'm irritated.
They were walking for so long to walk into the door by the pool, and when they got there, they didn't even go in. It's minimal. It has nothing to do with the storyline. I just kept thinking, why are they doing this?
I wonder, like, you remember Parker said that they used to have a hideaway key? Only because I started rewatching the episodes, and they were also at that back door. I wonder if the key was back there. Maybe Luke didn't carry one with him. That's only because I just rewatched that episode the other day, and Parker, they were at that back door looking for the key they used to hide.
How big is that freaking house? It took them like 15 minutes to walk around the outside.
I think it's pretty big. I think it's pretty big.
My goodness. No one needs that kind of well.
Yeah.
But this is where Luke says it's worse when he's gone. Because Brent is away at Branson, so it's worse with Steve, and they have nothing to talk about. Just this tension is so thick, and the only time we see Steve actually happy is when he thinks that he has convinced Luke to do what his bidding is.
And I thought it was sweet though too. This is where he also tells Megan, I love the way he worded this. He said, "You're my in case of anything, in case of everything contact," and I was just like, just the way he worded that was just like. Like I felt myself doing that over and over again for Luke, who I'm like, wait a minute, no, last week you were a jerk and I didn't care what happened to you, and now I'm like sad this whole episode.
So what took him from that, who was sweet, it was still weird how he got, I still am creeped out by how soon after Isabella he got with Megan. I think that's still weird and disgusting. But what took him from that to the plunge where he was just like, oh, I'm gonna make out with you because I was feeling it?
I tell you, here's what I think. Okay, there is a moment, I don't remember when it is that he says that, but it's when Megan's already starting to pull away from him, and he's telling Steve about it. And Steve tells him, well, I wouldn't worry about it. There's other fish in the sea. And I honestly think that his dad got in his head there, and he decided to try out the other fish.
Now you say that, I remember having that same thought because it was the day of the plunge.
Yes, I think it was Steve that caused that to happen. And maybe that's why he then blamed it on Isabella, because he was maybe he was really remorseful after he did it. And he was like, oh God, I got to cover my tracks here. Like, cause we don't want Megan to think that I did this. I don't know.
Yeah. And this Coast Guard, is this the first time we're hearing about the Coast Guard thing? Cause this was like brand new information.
I feel like it's brand new.
Okay. It is. Like, I always assumed he wanted to go into law enforcement because he hung out with the sheriff so much.
Yeah.
Which I guess the military and law enforcement, it's not that far of a jump from each other. So
it's basically just military it's law enforcement on the water, which is what he wanted to do. He likes the water. Yeah. How aggressive Steve disagreed with Luke over this. It was just an idea. And the way he spoke to Luke was so astoundingly aggressive that you could almost see Steve doing any manner of things.
It was so aggressive, and it was so business-like, you know what I mean? Like, he was speaking to one of his employees who isn't doing their job right.
Yep.
And it's ending with, okay, now you're going to do what I want. Yes. Okay. Dismissed.
And then if the answer is no, you're fired. Get out.
Yeah, that's what it felt like to me. And at this point, I'm like, well, maybe Luke needs to be fired because this father-son relationship is just not working out. But it did. I don't know. I was really uncomfortable watching it. I'm like, it's okay. This isn't real. But
and did you all remember when I was rewatching again too? Like, did you all remember that Steve was also in the military? I think the army, maybe.
No.
He mentions when he's talking about when the tapes get turned in, and he's talking about how, you know, back when I was in the army, we called guys.
Oh
like
yeah.
I was like, is there a story there? Like, did you hate being in the military? Because he makes the comments about that won't feed your family, that won't do this, that won't do that. So I'm like, what's the story there, Steve? Like, why are you so against this?
I wonder if part of the money came from his wife and her family, and he was kind of ushered in, and then he had to prove himself once he was in there.
Maybe.
That's real. I mean, do we know much about their mother except she died? Reminds.
We know when her birthday is vaguely. That's about it.
Right. Sometime in September. Yeah.
I wonder if that's it, because I thought that was weird too, how he brought that up. I did forget about the conversation he had with Brent about it though. But I think it would make sense that if the money was hers and he had to build this empire, it would explain why he pushes so hard and he has to go so hard at it.
There very well could be something with that. I don't know.
And the interesting thing there is the different way the sheriff reacted when Luke told him about this. You have Steve aggressive, no, you're doing this or you're getting out. And then the sheriff saying, the sheriff is actually pushing him to make things right with his dad. The sheriff is actually pushing him to continue to talk to his dad and let his dad see and let him just know. But the most interesting takeaway from that conversation is where Luke says, no, if I do this, I'm going to blow up my entire life. I'm going to pull the ripcord. And I think that is a very, very, very big detail for what's coming next week.
I do too.
And it plays heavily into my theory this week.
No, I agree.
And that's in October of 99, where he's telling he doesn't want any change with Megan. That's in October of 99. And just 2 months later, there's a lot of change thrown in his lap. And his and Megan's relationship is imploding. And I think that's actually, we can probably pinpoint his downward spiral to right then.
Probably.
In October of 99. That's when he starts to become this tool. And that's where, now who said in our group chat, we're going to move into November 99, who said in the group chat that they think that maybe this is his viewpoint of how Isabella was to him and maybe not really how he was? Who said that? Was that Melanie?
It was Melanie. And I agree, because I said this too, because I think the fact that this is the first episode that we're seeing her be so outwardly like
possessive,
he's mine, and this, you know, she's never been like that. And we also see that her and Luke were friendly. Like, some of her attitudes didn't match up, and this is the first episode we've seen from his point of view. So I think it's also not really until here where you're saying this is where his downward spiral begins that we start seeing her have that attitude, because I feel like it wasn't, he chose to hang out with them back in September. Like, I feel like there were moments, it was this moment here, this Matrix thing, which I knew it was Matrix costumes, by the way. I could tell.
I know, that was the only thing I was thinking. That was right.
There it was. I know, I could tell. But like, she was so like, she flat out said, you want to be the hero in her story, but there is not enough room for the both of us. Which Isabella is way too careful about her like image. I can't imagine that is truthfully what she says. It's almost like that's what Luke heard.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it's interesting. I would love to almost see a flashback to see like, what did she really say? Like, if they could like show something at some point, like, is that what she actually said to him? Because it felt really wrong.
Or what was the context? Because maybe maybe she did actually say that, but
they were joking.
But his context is just completely off from what it actually is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was weird.
Maybe she was saying that she needs to go off on her own and not Luke. But the other thing too is that we see now, obviously we're going in chronological order, but this is not how it was shown. We see these in between Luke waking up tied to a bed, and then they go back into these flashbacks. So we have to remember he was already drunk when he got to the cabin, and then he was fed more booze on top of benzos mixed together, and he was in and out of consciousness. So there's a very real possibility that after Isabella shot him, when he passes out or when he goes into like this sleepy state, that he's reimagining every interaction with her and trying to play out what happened. And so that could be, because you had said you thought maybe it was somebody's, I don't remember, but you thought it was in their head. Maybe it really was in Luke's head. This is just what he's going through his head while he's out from all the crap that they gave him.
Because he's also losing blood. I mean, I know it's not a whole lot, but I mean, I think that combined with everything else that's going on, he is. You know what I mean? Like, I think it could definitely like mess with your head. I mean, there's also a moment in November of '99 where Isabella also, when they come back from the bar and like they've forgotten they had plans with him or whatever, and Isabella is like making it a point to like talk about like some other guy, which also didn't feel like Isabella. Like, no. This all just felt really wrong. And like, why would
she was the one telling everybody they're inevitable, their end game.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying she didn't feel these things, because I think maybe she did, but like, I think she's too good at what she does to just slip up and say these things and to make these kind of mistakes. So I don't know. It felt weird in my opinion. Maybe
that was part of Luke putting on the spin, because it looked like Megan and Isabella were working together to harm him. So he was reviewing that interaction as, okay, well, Megan is clearly trying to hide things from me. So that was his fight or flight mode, was trying to pinpoint who the danger was.
Yeah.
Also, maybe he's a little bit of a schizophrenic. What if his mom's not really dead? Because we find out she wasn't sick. That's not how she died.
No.
And what if he's surprised she came back because that was her on the dock? I really don't think that's going to happen, but I think that would be entertaining.
That would definitely be entertaining. That had not crossed my mind even for a second, but entertaining, definitely.
Well, because there has to be, because this is so, the tone of this, not just from, it's Luke's perspective, but the tone of this last episode was so starkingly, that's not a word, starkingly a word?
I don't know. I would have thought it was.
Strikingly.
Teacher. There we go.
Strikingly. This episode was so strikingly different in tone from everything else we've learned about them. Now, we could say, well, we just didn't really know the real them, but the consistency that these characters have shown, we don't trust any of them, including Isabel. We don't trust her. No. But this was not who she has played. This is not the part she has played in any point in time throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, Brent was one that was on. I mean, I feel like he stayed true to character with his about the girls perform better in stealth mode.
He is like doing a rapid descent right back to who we originally thought of him as.
Like, Brent, can you just, because I was really trying to root for you, so please just stop talking. Like,
I was really trying. I think for like a couple seconds in this whole season, I was like, maybe Brent is an okay guy and Luke is just, the hot mess. But then he said, I was like, ew, dude, no.
Yeah, it was a gross conversation. That was a disgusting way that
so gross.
Freddie, Terry, Jerry, Jim, whatever their names are, those other two dudes, the way they were looking at Brent when he was saying this was so disgusting. Like, who are you people?
I don't know. I'm like, my God, is that the way teenage boys are? Like, I know teenage boys are gross, but I guess I didn't realize.
I don't remember high school being like that.
Maybe they didn't.
And that, I mean, that was the same age as them at that point. And I don't remember anybody in my high school being like that. I don't know. It was, but when they said to Luke, you would never do that. That's when Luke kind of got the idea. And Luke could have just let it slide. But there was something about the way that Jeff said it to him, what he said to him. I cannot remember what he said, but he didn't turn around and look at Luke. And he just said some comment about what the type of man that Luke was. And I think that was what kind of pushed Luke over the edge to do it. Would be more helpful if I remember what he said, but I don't.
I do remember what you're talking about, but I can't remember exactly what was said. But it was definitely more of a like, oh, but Luke Chambers, he would never do that. Or like, I don't know, something to that effect, kind of like off.
And that plays into too when we see them in the same time period at the sheriff station when Jeff comes, and I think somebody put in our chat, Jeff saying everything that all of us are thinking.
That's what I said. Yeah. It's true though, because I feel like we said these exact words on our podcast about Brent last week, that's the only thing that set him aside from Luke, is that he may be a jerk and he's, an asshole, as Jeff called him, but he's honest about it. Whereas Luke tries to hide it and pretend that he's someone different.
And he does way more harm by doing that. And Brent does plenty of harm. I am not excusing anything he is doing. He is disgusting. He does horrible things. Luke has done the same thing, but held up like a paragon of virtue by the people around him.
You know what you're going to get with Brent. It's like if you choose to get involved, you already knew what you were getting into.
Exactly.
Luke is going to surprise you and hurt you, and you think you're safe with him. So that's the problem, I think.
So what do you think moving into December of 99? What do you think? Because that trip to Madrid seemed, I don't know, weird, out of pocket for me. It didn't connect with me really, because Megan had a scholarship. She had big plans for where she was going to go. Of course, it's a summer trip, but
how would she have afforded that? Is what I was wondering. Like,
she wouldn't even take any money from Megan or from Isabella for anything. Yeah. So this felt
unless
weird.
It was one of those things, because Megan kept saying, like, if we go, and Isabella was like, no. So unless it was just one of those, like, Megan was just entertaining the thought, had no intention of actually like following through, but like, and Isabella was using it as a way to like push Luke's buttons by continuing to talk about it, which again felt strange. We have not seen Isabella do these kinds of things. Like, it was, I don't know, all of it was very weird. The way Isabella was portrayed this episode. But then again, the way she was portrayed this episode is kind of how we all thought her to be
in the beginning,
the first couple episodes. So I'm like, which one is, like, the other episodes we've sort of seen from her perspective and Megan's, which maybe that's downplayed who she is. Who is she really? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, maybe Luke is the one who got it right.
Maybe he was seeing the real her. I don't know.
And there was that one line she said when Megan said, "Oh, I think enough of this for you," and she said, "Oh no, I'm just getting started." And then she glared at Luke. So there's, but where that tied into for me was when she came down with the gun when he was tied up in the cabin. That felt like that felt like the same person.
Yes.
It still felt off when she said it, but when she came down with the gun, also felt like, whoa, crazy pants. Why are we going to this route all of a sudden?
Yeah, so we took it a little step further there.
Maybe she was actually letting out these little crazy pieces of her personality to kind of push Luke in the same way that she would maybe goad Trevor or Lisa. And she's doing this in bits and pieces, but not enough for anyone else to really latch on except for the person she's trying to harm, because we've mentioned she is too good at what she does.
True.
Maybe this is her trying to make Luke fall off the deep end. And then oh my gosh, what his dad said, I almost wanted to slap him. I'm sick of trying to fix you. Fix him from what?
What's wrong with him? Like, I mean, I don't understand. Like, just because he doesn't want to be a business major? Like, my goodness.
I hated it so much because I was like, well, first of all, he doesn't need to be fixed. Second of all, if you're sick of trying to fix him, then just stop doing it.
Not like this kid wants to like be a bum and like, go off and try his career as an artist, or like, I mean, he's going to the Coast Guard, guys. Like, this isn't like, I mean, it would be different if my kid was like, oh, Mom, I'm going to be an actress and we're going to like move. Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe we should try something else first. Like, but like, he's going into the Coast Guard. Like, this is a perfectly acceptable like career choice.
It's not like he's saying, I want to take a gap year and move to San Francisco and find myself. No, he's has a plan for his life. Isn't that what parents want their kids to have some kind of plan?
And you can't be saying like, oh, you're worried about, because I can understand some people, you worry about like, if you want to become like a Marine on the front lines, like, okay, like that's worrisome because it's dangerous. But I mean, not that the Coast Guard, but I don't know, he's just wanting to go to the Coast Guard Academy. This is all he wants to do. He could still very well go into business after this. Like, he's just wanting to like, I don't know, it just feels weird that he is so against this that it's like you're throwing away your life with this. Like, who says stuff like that? That's weird to me.
It was horribly mean. And this is too where we, like I said, this episode made me think that Steve is capable of anything. And so when they talked about the car accident, I remember when I said back in episode 1 or 2, I think Steve may have killed his wife. But then we thought she was sick and died.
Yeah.
Now we find out that Steve was supposed to be the one driving that car. But some work thing pulled him away all of a sudden and he couldn't drive the car. So it was Luke, who is the ultimate disappointment to Steve, and his wife driving this car, and only the wife died. part of me thinks, Stephen, what did you do to that car? That was where my
Right.
first thought went.
I didn't think about that, but
So I think Luke even says to his dad, we would have all been better off if you had been the one driving. But he also says, you wish it was me that died.
mhm,
Stephen did not even say you're wrong. He didn't
I
say, no, I'm glad you survived. I'm glad. He didn't say any of that.
He
mhm.
didn't even make a half-hearted attempt.
No, he just kept on going. And so we have to believe it's true. Is he really sad that Luke didn't also die? Were they both supposed to die? Was Brent the golden child who does whatever dad says and is under his thumb? Was he the one who was supposed to? I don't really think they will show that, but it just shows that that's what Steve is capable of.
Yeah. Except everything we've seen makes me believe that Steve like cherished his wife. Like we've seen him talk about how great she was. We talk about how he honors her at the Christmas party with like her favorite movie, and like I don't know. I really feel like I don't know. I don't know if I buy into that. Now, did he wish it was Luke that died instead of his wife? Maybe. But Luke just said the same thing to him. It'd been better if you were the one driving. So I'm like, that's also a really terrible thing to say to your father, Luke. Like, I don't
It
know.
is, but look at how his father has been treating him too.
Well, I know, but
I feel like
still
Luke was
think,
pushed to that point. And I think that Steve, we've made enough comments through this whole season that Steve cares more about reputation than his own family. He cares
agree.
more about how he's perceived than his own family. So the crap that he's putting on about his wife and her favorite stuff, he's also dating someone that works for him at that point in time.
But we saw in that video, which would have been very close to when she died.
I agree.
I really think he was.
Do we know it was really close to when she died, or were they just watching it because it was her birthday and that was when it was recorded?
They said it had been 8 years from 1999, so she died the next year
before she died. Okay. I mean, maybe Steve started to get into some bad things and his wife wasn't for it. I don't know. I don't really think he killed his wife. I just think that they're trying to show us that Steve is capable of anything.
Yeah, I would agree.
And then, of course, we see in this too, where Megan gets the idea for the letter that we have to believe she wrote it now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless they're going to show us in the last episode that she also came there and Luke wrote this and said, hey, forgive me for everything I did. Just hand this to my dad.
Yeah, I don't think so.
What she said to her mom really did feel true, that she sat by the phone waiting for him to call every day. Mm-hmm. Some part of that felt true. Mm-hmm. So why would she think that was going to happen after the last time she would seen him? She left him tied up and shot. Why would she think he's going to call her after that? Well, except for she told him she's pregnant.
Unless because he was gone and she just held on to some hope that like until the body was found that he did run away because of the stuff he was talking about.
Yeah. And I do think that Steve could have a hand in something because I mean, he did get very physical with Brent at this party. And it was interesting that they showed us from that perspective because I'm trying to think back to that episode of when would he have had time to pull Luke aside, because I was pretty sure that Megan and him were together the whole time. So when did he pull him aside at this Christmas party? But they made a point to show us it was after Luke told Megan he loved her. Mm-hmm. And before the tape. And
here's interesting about the tape. Okay, so we know he goes and grabs it. I think he thought it was one of Brent's because it was laying there with those. Because I still don't know that I think Luke would have done that to Megan. I think he thought he was getting one of Brent's because that would have showed Golden Boy like doing something too. Like, because he does do it. I went back and watched that episode.
Yep. He looks shocked.
He is genuinely shocked. So I think because it was laying there with all the others, he thought it was Brent. But if you watch Brent's face, Brent looks a little like Brent knew. I still don't think Brent knew Megan was on the tape because I don't think he watched the whole tape. But I think he watched part of it enough to believe that it was Luke and Isabella, and that's why he was like.
I think that it was more like, haha, gotcha, when he played the tape.
Well, I think that's what I'm saying. Like, I think Brent knew, because Brent doesn't look shocked at all. And I feel like Brent would be shocked, like, oh my God, like, Luke.
I don't think he would be.
Like, I don't know.
I think he would be disgustingly proud.
But he doesn't even look proud. He looks like almost smug.
Yeah, like he caught Luke in a gotcha.
It's what it looks like. So I don't know. And I don't think he ever realized it was Megan on the tape, because I think he would have been angry with Luke. I still think there's a soft spot for Megan. He would have been angry for Luke doing that to her.
And you have to know that, I mean, what would that solve for Luke if Luke intentionally played the tape of him and Megan? What would that solve for him? It would make things astronomically worse for him. And it did.
Yeah.
My only question is, how did the tape end up in Brett's stash?
That's what I'm saying. I think Brent watched it, but not
Yeah, but
all of
how
that.
did he get the tape though? Did Luke leave it for him to be like, see, I can make a tape, which makes Luke
Maybe.
just as responsible.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't even know if that's important, but I think that would be a depiction of his character.
Yeah.
How he got the tape.
Yeah. True.
But I was trying to see which room he was in, and I couldn't tell. I just saw a stack of tapes.
I just assumed it was Brent's because of the stack of tapes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That scene at the cabin though, when they're all out there and they're being so disgusting. Like maybe this was what guys were like when I was in high school, and I just completely missed it because I didn't have these powwows with dudes where we all sat around just me and them. So I didn't hear it. But that was gross. Like every part of that was disgusting. Even Jeff, when I couldn't remember his name for a minute, when Luke led them to believe, yeah, it really was Isabel. Yeah, I am a stud. He didn't outright come and say it, but the fact that when he was called on it, he was like, yeah. And the look on Jeff's face was completely floored.
Yeah. I don't know. The fact that Jeff entertains all that, of course, that right there, that's where, I mean, Jeff was sort of telling him because he was like, yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors. Because we found out Jeff knew it was Megan on the tape.
Because of the laugh.
So,
Yep.
Yeah. But see that, this is where, like, after that, like, Steve is talking to Luke, and Luke is actually kind of confiding in him a little bit that things are different with Megan after the tape was revealed and stuff. And that's when he told him there's plenty of fish in the sea. I was like, well, that's disgusting. And it's just, not only is it your son's girlfriend, but it is the woman that you supposedly love's daughter as well. So, but he also, because going back and rewatching, at that Christmas party, he told Debbie even that, like, they were too young to tie themselves down. So it sounds like he's been against him being with Megan for a while.
Well, yeah, because I think that he, I first of all, I think that from a parent, it is kind of sound advice that don't hitch yourself so tightly to the person you're with in high school that you do everything for them no matter what. I mean, yeah, if you're meant to be together, you're meant to be together, whatever, but there's a danger there. Yeah. So there's some part of you that wants to be like, well, kind of right, but then also the reasons, his motivations behind it are what's wrong, because he wanted Luke to be this empire of business, and I think he wanted Luke to go outside of her because he thought he could do better. He's a Chambers, he could do better. Yeah. But what does that say about Steve and Debbie?
I know, because I mean, I thought he really cared about Debbie. I mean, it appears that way anyway, so I don't know.
Although Debbie does work for him, so maybe it's just, this is my side piece after I had my very wealthy, beautiful wife.
Well, and I think Debbie is sort of, by the time in 99, we've almost molded her into being sort of that perfect little, like, trophy wife next to him. You know what I mean? Like,
all right, so let's dive into the last part of this episode. We're going to get into the nitty gritty.
Yes.
Winter of 2000. I kind of felt bad for Luke. Like, dude, you couldn't figure out that you could untie those sooner.
I felt really bad for him. I was like, this poor guy. Like, it's like, his ear's just been shot and he's tied up.
His ear looks so jacked up. It was like squared off.
Oh my gosh.
But like, in the last episode, it looked like it was just a tiny little nick, but this time it looked like she shut the whole bottom part of the ear off.
I mean,
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I want to be clear about that. I'm laughing because costume and makeup kind of failed that a little bit. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
I just love how, like, they were just gonna leave. Like, Isabella's like, let's just leave him. Like, what?
Of course she is. She shot him.
But like, he's gonna. What do you think's gonna happen when you come back in the morning? I mean, she even took the tape. Like, you know what? Think about what you did, which messed up. I was like, shoot, because I thought for sure somebody was gonna come in and find that tape or whatever. So,
well, what she did there was, this is my insurance policy. Not so much think about what you did, but you better not tell, because I will show this to everybody.
Which, even if you show that, like, that's okay.
You're on tape shooting him.
You shot me. Which is going to be worse than anything I've just admitted to do.
Right?
At least none of what he did prior to that was illegal.
I mean, I guess filming Megan was illegal, but still not the same illegal as, like, shooting someone.
No!
Or tying them up, drugging them, holding them hostage. Like, that's way worse, guys.
If we're trying to have a contest of who's doing the most illegal things, I mean, I think Isabella's going to win this one.
Hey, she likes to win.
That is true.
But okay, here's another part. This is where, so obviously Megan doesn't want to leave. She decides to tell him right now that she's pregnant. And he doesn't react the way that she thought which I was a little disappointed in how he reacted to. But at the same time, he Megan
tied him up and drugged him and then shot him.
and then dropped him with some news of, hey, we're gonna have a baby together. So like give him just a moment to like process that, because I honestly think Luke would have, at given time to think about that, would have reacted to that differently. Because I had it in my head that it would have been Megan that would have wanted the baby to be taken care of.
Oh, I didn't.
Because of just her wanting to get out of that like town so badly. Like I thought for sure it was gonna be her, and he would be the one like, yeah, let's have a family. Let's, I don't know. He just struck me as
Oh yeah, no, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying something the opposite.
He's like, my dad can take care of that. Like, oh, Luke, that's gross, but okay. Like, just to word it like that, like
it is gross. But here's the thing: I understand it, because again, she is telling him this, expecting him to be like,
yes.
oh, baby, you have this kid tied up, scared out of his mind, just shot at when you force fed him drugs.
Yeah.
Why should he be excited to have a baby with you, you crazy, crazy person?
True.
Like, I support Luke's reaction. I mean, I don't support Luke's reaction to be like, my dad can take care of that, but I support his reaction to be like, I don't really want anything to do with you anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids had a terrible night up until this. So, I mean, can we kind of just let his reaction slide a little? Like,
I know.
Take a break.
Let's just start over from here. Let's just go back to point zero. But I think the other thing too there is that his whole life, Steve has been, well, since his mom died at least, Steve has been a bully and has been abusing him and pushing him to do what he wants. And Megan has just shown him that she's a little bit of that by tying up and getting him to do and say exactly what she wants. And when he didn't say what she wants, she abandoned him and left. So he's just seeing another straight up bully.
Yeah. And I don't know, that moment, like, okay, so I was really getting frustrated with him, like, untying himself. I'm like, just lean over and use your teeth, man. I could tell that he was close enough that he could do this. Like, just get it. But he finally got himself loose. And then, but him, guys, I don't know if it's, like, just all the feels that Luke has given me this episode, but him stumbling through the woods in the dark and scared. And then they're playing that, like, Linkin Park song, which I love.
Which is about suicide.
So very much, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just, I was like, oh my, like, I had tears in my eyes. I was like, this is so sad right now. Like,
I thought he was going to jump off himself is what I thought, actually.
Yeah.
Because what he's hearing is, he's not hearing a single good thing about himself. It's every horrible thing that people who were supposed to be in his corner said about him.
Yeah.
Did Luke do some pretty awful, disgusting things? Absolutely he did. But you can see why he did them. And they were because people pushed him and pushed him and pushed him, and he didn't know which voice to trust.
Well, that's the thing, though. And I mean, I don't know, no matter what he's done, I'm like, no one deserves to hear those things about and to feel like you are completely alone in this world. I mean, that is just, even Brent, who, gross. Like, even him, I would feel bad at, like, no one deserves to feel like no one has your back and no one is in your, like, corner. Like, I don't know, it's just a sad feeling.
It was really sad. That song made me, I love Linkin Park. That was like my favorite group. But I was really nervous watching him run through that group, run through those woods. Yeah. And also the other thing I thought was, this is why I thought he was going to jump off, because my thought was, why he gets lost so easily? Why wouldn't you take the road out, man? Why are you running through the woods? Take the road.
Well, in his defense, he's kind of drugged, so.
That's true. That is true. But still, he was smart enough to grab a flashlight and get dressed properly and get out of there.
Yeah. Which I think, I mean, he went to the docks on purpose, though. I think, like, there was a reason there, like,
That was when it was when the song kicked on. I was like, uh-oh, that's why you didn't take the road. And then I was really nervous that he was looking for that was the moment I thought, he's looking for the lake to do something to himself. Yeah. I really thought that's where he was going with it.
I thought too.
But I think that he pages someone. Was it 752? Is that what he is that what he paged?
I couldn't see. I was trying to figure it out.
It was 75, but I don't know what came after that, because I wanted to see if I could. And of course, they're not going to be like, hey, this is what he paged somebody. Of course, they're not going to show us that. But the fact that he paged someone to come down there means that he doesn't have any intention of going anywhere. He was looking for someone to help him out of there. Yes. And I think that's why I think he's alive, because I think that this was him saying, I'm no good here. I can't stay here another minute. I'm going to die if I'm here. Either these crazy ladies are going to come back and finish their job, or my father is going to finish me off and I need to get out. And I think that's what he did.
Yeah.
Isabella, man, her crazy came out in full-fledged force in this episode, though.
It did, because like when they're tossing and turning in bed, like you can tell Megan looks worried and sad. Isabella, I couldn't place her look. To me it looked hurt, but also angry.
She looked angry. Real angry.
Yeah. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know. Do we think either one? I don't know. I guess we'll get into it later. I don't know if I think either one of them went back or not. I'm not sure.
Well, they both think the other one did, though.
Yeah.
Whether or not they did, let's get into the preview. We see in the preview that they show up to the cabin at the same time, and he's gone. So they both know that they came together that morning, but they both think the other one went there in the middle of the night. So I don't know if they actually did.
I know. I don't know. The fact that they showed them in bed is supposed to make us think that they didn't, but that doesn't mean anything.
No, it does not, because they're both wide awake when we leave the episode.
Yep.
They weren't sleeping.
I mean, that page could have come through at any moment, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did look like masculine legs, though. I will say that.
It did to me, too. So I do think it's a guy, but I mean, it could be, I mean, who knows? I mean, it could just be the way they filmed it. I mean, you know, I think we can't rule anyone out completely.
It could be that that's just who I want to see there, too.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? But like, I know Brent, let's see, like in the preview, so they go back to the cabin, we saw that. So Brent is also listening. It looks like he's listening to Megan talk to someone. You can see it's the year 2000. You can see the back of her like hair with him at the door. I can't tell if she's talking to Steve. Yeah, he's standing like outside the door, almost like Parker was that day that she overheard Isabella and Megan talking. So I can't tell who she's talking to. Maybe Steve. I don't know, because I'm like, otherwise, why would he be listening in? I'm not sure. But whatever it is, Brent is telling Steve, like, you're destroying an innocent person's life. And so that could be Megan, because we see that she gets arrested. But that could also be Steve seemed like he had it out for Ned. And maybe if Brent is the one that came back, he would know for a fact that Ned is innocent. Or whoever we're trying to frame. That might be how he knows they're innocent, because he knows something. And that's why he's like saying this.
I have a theory about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I think too that he was talking about Megan, because really, who is the only person that Brent has cared about this entire season?
Yeah, Megan.
Just Megan. I don't think he would care if he was destroying Ned, and I still believe that he was going to plant evidence in Ned's house. So I don't think he cares about Ned at all. I think he thinks Ned's a crazy person. He'd be happy to see him go. I think that he was talking to Steve about, because we see Megan get arrested. Yeah. And I think Brent and Steve both know who did this to Luke. And he's telling him, you're ruining Megan's life. She didn't do anything. You're going to ruin it. So the one thing that confused me about this episode, that's not true. There's not only one thing. One of the things that confused me about this episode was, okay, yeah, someone came to the dock. Luke clearly doesn't want to die because he called someone down there. Why is he in the water vault seemingly all by himself and then popping up at the end of the preview?
Unless whoever he brought to the dock, they get in a fight and they think they've murdered him, but then he pops back out. But even then, I still feel like that's like giving us a lot of information in a preview.
It is.
So I don't know.
And we also see Steve sprinting through the forest.
Okay, I missed that part of the preview.
I paused it on that. He is running very fast through the forest.
Interesting. Can we tell what time frame that was happening?
No, because the preview doesn't do the color thing. It, by the looks of it, it is 2000, winter of 2000. But that's only going off of what he's wearing and what his face looks like. But Steve's face doesn't really change in all that time, so it's very difficult to pinpoint that.
Yeah.
So that's coming next week. Let's get into our final theories.
I don't know if I can make them final, because I'm going to change my mind like as soon as I rewatch all these episodes.
Well, we're not going to hear another one. You guys aren't going to hear another one from us until you're just not going to hear another one from us unless they leave things open-ended and unanswered. Then we'll discuss that next week, but those won't be answered ever. So let's get into, what do we think actually happened?
All right, I'm gonna read mine, but
I didn't read anybody's either, by the way.
I'm not super confident. I mean, like,
I don't think any of us are very confident. Are you confident, Eve? Do you feel sure about it?
All right, so
I'm just about anything.
As I read it, you'll hear the lack of confidence even in my typing as I wrote this up. I said, he called the sheriff, or maybe Brent, to help him get away and fake his death. Obviously, there's holes in the story. My gut wants to say the sheriff, but then why would he press so hard to blame the girls? This is me like talking to myself here, basically. Also, who was the body? Maybe a body from the morgue? I think he might very well be alive, but I'm not sure how he pulled this off and with who. Or is he dead and Brent did it, but not on purpose? Maybe he told him about the tapes of Megan and Brent gets upset, fights with him, goes too far, and Luke drowns. Honestly, I have no clue anymore.
You're going to laugh really hard when I read you mine.
Okay.
All right. Eve, what's yours?
Okay. I think maybe he called Jeff or Brent, and then I tossed Trevor in there,
Why
just
not?
to have a
Victorious.
just for fun. I think whoever he called, to help him disappear or get out of the situation or help him somehow. What kind of help he wants, I'm still not sure on. Did he want to run away? Did he just want, help with his ear that was almost shut off? Like, I don't know. And then I said, but what about the body? Because, well, I guess we'll get into this a little later, because I don't think that was Luke anymore. Whose body was pulled out of the lake, and how was said body acquired?
I answered that though.
All right.
The sheriff got a body from the morgue. This is what happened.
Now, when I was trying to think of who showed up, I was trying to think of like who has like who is there any nurse that we know or any doctor that we know? And I just now thought, well, Debbie seems to be, but then I forgot she worked for C. But she's like seems very medically like that. Would maybe someone I would call. So I don't know, but my theory, Debbie has gone far too much in the background the last couple episodes for me to be comfortable about it.
I had a little thought of, could it be Debbie he calls?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. So my theory is shockingly similar to yours, Jeanette.
Oh, really?
I think Luke paged either Jeff or Ned. My first thought was Steve, but I don't think Luke would be shocked unless they had a total falling out, though it is Steve running through the woods. So maybe I'm leaning more toward Ned because I feel like Luke faked his own death and Ned would be most equipped to handle that. Maybe the sheriff, though. Maybe they had a falling out over something his dad did or said. Luke does go in the water, as we see in the preview, but I don't know why. Or he does page Steve and Brent follows him, hears the conversation, freaks out of what he's done to Megan and shoves him in the water. Brent shoves him in the water and wants to do more, but Steve tries to stop it. When Luke dies, he tells Brent to go and he secures Luke down deep, never expecting him to come up so soon, and then he runs out. That's why he can identify the body so quickly. So I think it's either that or Luke faked his own death. He's either dead or he's alive. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's one of those two.
One or the other, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel pretty secure in that analysis.
I think I'll jump on board with that. One or the other.
So next question, is Luke dead? Sorry, you wanted to say something else about the series?
Well, no, I just wanted to, because I'm going to this one particular episode, my daughter,
Oh, yeah.
11, likes the show. She has some answers too. So she wanted to be on the podcast. We wouldn't let her. So the least I can do is mention.
Jeanette wouldn't let her.
Mean mom. I know I wouldn't let her. Okay. So she also thinks that it is either Brent or Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Maureen, I want to say I don't think it's Ned, because why would he have Ned's phone number? Like,
that's what I thought too. I was just trying to think of someone who would be shocked to show up, and Ned and Jeff are the only two I could think of shocked that he would show up.
Because this is the year 2000, so for any young children watching this, we had to actually memorize phone numbers. Like, they're not going to be just like in something. So like, it had to be somebody's phone number off the top of your head.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt he has Ned's phone number.
Unless Megan gave it to him for emergencies for something. But I doubt it.
I don't think so. But anyways, I don't think Luke is dead. I said, changing my mind now. I think he might be alive, and that's going to be our twist at the end.
And then you know who will be right when that happens. Well,
for the record, I think in the earliest, if we were to look back, we all were on board, but he might still be alive.
For the record, I never jumped off that ship.
Well, that's true, but that's because you like to hang on to things and refuse to let go.
Maybe it's because I'm right.
That's because you've been dangling from the ship. Okay.
Yes, that's true.
You're just like, everybody else has jumped off, so I'm gonna hang on just to do it. But it may have paid off this time, because I think you're right. I'm climbing back up. I'm on the rope, coming back on the ship because I really think he's alive.
I felt alone up here for too long.
Well, give
Eve,
me
what
a
do you
hand
think?
and pull me back up. I'm on board.
Same as Jeanette. I'm climbing up back onto the boat right behind her. I said, I'm convinced now that he's alive and someone helped him disappear. And that is going to be the twist at the end.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be led to believe that he's dead right up until the last like couple minutes.
Mm-hmm. That
I
he's
think
in the
so.
wings somewhere holding the baby.
Or
Look,
doing something, living life. I don't know.
if we find out that he's alive earlier than the last 5 minutes of the show, then the baby is going to be the twist at the end. I'm just saying, like, because we're gonna they have to give us a last minute twist. I will be mad if they do not, because even though that upset me last season, that's my favorite part of last season.
Why did it upset you? She went right and told the cops.
Yeah,
Prove me wrong, Jeanette.
I
Prove
can't.
me
That's
wrong.
the thing. I can't prove you wrong. That's
That
why
is
I
my
like
point.
this, though. So
There will never be a continuation. It is what I want, and it is what I say. That's what happens.
the way you like it, anyway. So
Yes, exactly. So me, they have not convinced me a single time in this entire series that he's dead. They also have not convinced me a single time in the series he's alive either. But I've been more towards he's alive somewhere. There is something about that scene about how Steve came on and he said, it's Luke. He said it too quickly, the way he brushed up there. There was something that was just too quick. And of course, why would Steve be covering up his son's death? But still, it felt like maybe Steve thinks Brent did it. So he's trying to get ahead of the curve to save his one remaining son. Maybe
This
that's
is
why he's
what-
covering it up.
I mean, we all know. I mean, I harped on this for a long time. Like, I think we all did. Something bothered me that we never saw a body.
Mhm.
Because why? Why did you not show us the body? Why
Yep.
did you not, at the very least, like, did we not see like an actual funeral where we saw the body there? Like, there's
Just
gotta
a
be
memorial.
there's got to be a reason why
Mhm.
no one but the body, like, and I mean, the sheriff, if he knew it was like somehow faked and like we got like a John Doe from the morgue or whatever, put him in Luke's clothes, whatever we did, like the sheriff would be in on it. So it'd be easy, I think, to cover it up, and maybe just something to the effects of the clothes or something that Steve just assumed it was, I don't know.
But is he that corrupt to arrest Megan on murder charges for a guy he knows
That's-
is alive?
That is the part that's messing with me, unless he is really unless it is strictly because of like what they've like done to because
But he says you're arrested for the murder.
but they kind of did leave Luke to die. I mean, like he
Mhm.
could, I don't think he would have bled out. I mean, like he would have been fine, but anything could have happened. He was also drugged, laying on his back. What if he had thrown up? I mean, like there are lots of things that were wrong with how they left him tied up.
100%.
So,
But to charge someone with murder of somebody is a significantly bigger sentence than attempted murder.
but the sheriff, I don't, there's also, we have harped so hard on the relationship between him and Luke, and for what? Like maybe he would do a whole lot for Luke.
I'm sure he would. But
I
I
don't
think if he's going to do a whole lot for Luke, then he would also be a guy who, yeah, he's going to fake Luke's death, but he's not going to charge someone else for the murder
That's
when he
fair.
knows that he's alive. I think he might think Luke is dead, but I think that Steve has pushed him through bribery, through threats, through whatever, that, hey, one of these girls did it. I know they did it. Do something.
Yeah. No.
Because that arresting Megan compiled with Brent saying you're going to ruin someone innocent. The only person that Brent cares about is Megan. So there is something that the sheriff is involved somewhere, because we can't forget all the little, although maybe the gambling was a freaking green ring pop.
They could have been.
Just like clearly Debbie's illness was more than just a ring pop. Debbie's illness was a straight up lie misdirect to get us to think something nefarious.
Yeah.
That if they do not address that, so help me, I am writing Jessica Biel a very strongly worded letter.
Well, they haven't said anything since that one episode, so who knows?
But she has been awfully quiet there in the background these last 2 episodes, when she was
I
fairly
know.
vocal and front and center.
I know. I agree.
Something is up there. All right. So do the girls know what happened to him?
No, I think the last thing they know is they left him at the cabin.
What about you, Eve?
Yeah, same thing. They know nothing after they left the cabin, but they each think the other did it.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
Whatever it is.
I think what Megan told her she thought Isabella did is really what she thinks Isabella did. And she went back to the cabin. Also, who claimed that? Someone on our podcast was like, she said she went back to the cabin, so they were there together. One of you guys, it wasn't me, but one of you guys had said that and called that out. So you were right about that. Whoever it was, take your
I
credit.
don't remember anymore, if I'm being honest.
That they went back.
Mm-hmm.
Cabin.
So I think no, they don't know. They left him at the cabin that night and they returned together the next morning, but both think the other went there in the middle of the night and did something. Especially now that they found a body. They think that they did something. So I think actually what we see that one episode where it ends with both of them telling on the other one, I think that they're really telling the officer what they truly genuinely think happened.
Yeah.
All right. So who or what was he running away from?
I mean, I think as far as like the letter, I think it's made up.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think that Megan wrote that. That's just whatever. But I think he was running away from his future that Steve had planned out and all the mistakes that he had made that year.
Okay. Eve, what about you?
I think he's running from the future that Steve mapped out for him and whoever he's turned into. Even though I did feel a little bad for him. Yeah. I mean, especially when he was shot in the ear. I mean, how can you not feel bad for someone who's been shot in the ear? And
that's like, true. That's a good call. Good call. We are decent human beings over here at FFC.
Yes.
Also, it's the person other people have made him into. I think what he's running from is his life. All the things that the girls and every other person said to him, he wanted out. I think Megan wrote the letter after, not to cover for herself, but I think she was trying to ease Brent and Steve from thinking the worst because I think she really did think he ran away because he had said that to her. So I think that she was thinking, if I write this letter, then they won't keep looking for him and they will let him go. But that obviously backfired spectacularly. All right. So what happened to Lisa and St. Barnes? I think that we're not going to find out anything else about this. Even if we do, I think it'll be a blip in next week's episode. But has your opinions changed at all?
No,
same. Mine hasn't either. Mine's been the same as it has.
I haven't even thought about that part of the storyline in weeks. So
I maintain my viewpoint of Trevor and Isabel's role in it. Will not change. So what happened to Megan's baby?
This is where, okay, so this is where I'm confused. I mean, I would say a miscarriage. Because I don't think abortion anymore. I don't think that anymore either. Not after her reaction to what Luke had to say. But here's my thing too. Why have we not said what happened to it yet? Why? Why wouldn't we just say that we have miscarriage? Like, why was she so weird to talk about it with her mom? This is my theory that I've hung on to all season that I really hope I get to say that I'm right. I really feel like there's a possibility as well that she hid the pregnancy and was able to actually give birth to the baby and it's somewhere. Because it's just not seeing Luke's body. Yeah. Why have we not addressed this yet? Because I don't see the purpose. If we're led to believe that she's no longer pregnant now, why wouldn't we just say it? I don't understand, I guess. So I think it could be a last minute twist that the baby is alive. And maybe that's where Ned really has helped her with that and is taking care. I don't know. I just feel like there could be something there.
Maybe that's why she saw the code, because she went over there with the baby and he was taking care of it. So that's how she knew the code.
Maybe, yeah.
I think it's possible. What do you think, Eve?
Miscarriage or gave birth and the baby's in hiding, and the latter is what I'm leaning more towards, that the baby is alive and well somewhere with somebody. Where that somewhere is and who that someone is. I'm TBD. Sorry. Nothing else.
Mic drop. I think I was leaning more towards miscarriage. Now, when I wrote this out 2 days ago, whenever I did this, I was leaning more towards miscarriage. But here's my thing. Something has made her turn this dark and gothic person. Going from how she dressed, how she appeared, how she presented herself in winter of 99 to summer of 2000, something massive imploded. And it's more than just my boyfriend fathered my baby ran away. Something huge has happened. So that's why I thought abortion, that and the first sentence that she ever said, that she did this and she heavily, heavily regrets it and sort of hates herself now. And that's her clothing and her persona is reflected in that, is what I think. But now talking to you guys, I'm starting to believe that there's the theory of the baby could very well be alive, and that's very plausible. So my overall theory at the moment is she either had a miscarriage, she aborted it, or the baby was born.
Yeah, I think that's solid as well.
I can't really think of any other possibilities that exist in there. So
You know
One
what's
of
going to
those.
happen is I am going to be right on all of my theories tomorrow.
I
There you
see
go.
what you're doing there.
I
You're
do
just
what I
playing
can.
on every single possibility.
Why not? All right. So why was there blood in the cabin?
I think same as we've been saying, whatever happened to the baby is what caused the blood in the cabin.
My only thing there is, no, she's very clearly not pregnant at the start of winter 2000. Has she been this dark for months, for weeks? Or did she maybe just had the baby a couple days prior and then all of a sudden she's like, I'm going to go goth? How long has she been this dark persona? We don't know. But the day that she waits till his body is found to go clean the blood from the cabin, how long was that blood there is my only question. And why did she wait that long?
That's true. I don't know.
Hmm.
I think that's a really weird like scenario anyways, because I feel like, let's say the blood isn't from the baby, it's from that night. Like, you notice the sheets, did you notice that too? The sheets, when she's cleaning up that blood on the floor, the sheets are in the pile next to her, which tells me you didn't go get the sheets either. You just left like
Those
did you,
cops did not do a very good job if that's the case.
like that would be the first place you would look, because Luke spends a lot of time at the cabin.
They did make a point, actually, now I'm thinking about it, this episode, to show Luke dripping blood on the floor.
I saw that too.
They made a point to show that roughly where she was sitting. But why didn't the police pick up on that blood spot or the sheets? Why did they miss that?
Weird.
I mean, they had to have checked the cabin, right? Like, if a person goes missing, you check all the places that are known to them, right?
I mean, I'm not a cop, but I watch a lot of cop TV, and I would think look, I don't know, Hank Voight would have checked the cabin.
Yes.
And that's all I can say.
I don't know, man.
It's
I don't
weird.
know. And if it's from the baby, would there really be that little amount of blood? Or was there more blood than I'm remembering? So I don't believe it's from the baby anymore. Although, even though that's what I wrote this week was from what happened with the baby. I don't think it's the baby.
Now that I'm just saying that, because I just now had a visual of the sheets being on the floor next to, because I just rewatched these episodes. The sheets are on the floor next to her when she's scrubbing that spot. So that's when she took those as well.
Did she hide them in the floor? But so much of this doesn't make sense. If she hid it somewhere, they would have found it when they found the backpack.
They better
I'm
make this
really
make
bothered
sense.
by all this blood that the police missed.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if we're just confused about timelines here, or if the cops in this town are just really
awful.
Well, maybe this is why they didn't check it, because the sheriff knows he's not dead, so he didn't bother going to the cabin.
Ooh,
there, I've solved the mystery.
Mic drop for real this time. That could work, because we talked about how competent the sheriff appears to be. Maybe what he's trying to do is solve what they did to Luke leading up to us so Luke could return.
Listen, I got this too. This is why we had a problem.
She's using her quiet voice.
We had our problem with how they isolated those sounds from the party. Well, they didn't. They didn't need to, because Luke just told him about it. So see, that didn't happen either.
How could Luke possibly know that that's what they said at the party?
Maybe they told him.
No, they did not.
I'm just saying, all the bad cop stuff that's been
you need
going
to pick
on.
the mic up again, because that just pushed you farther from it.
No, I still believe it. It's happening. The sheriff helped him run away.
Everything up until that last thing, I think, is there has to be a reason they didn't find that before. And then after the body showed up, then they went to the cabin for the first time. Mm-hmm. That would make more sense. All of this would make more sense if that's how it happened. All of it.
Well, it's because that's how it happened.
Look at you trying not to look smug and completely failing.
I'm not. I don't think I'm actually right. But
all right, well, I think that's plausible. I mean, there has to be a reason that they didn't find that crap. What role does Ned... I like that it still says crazy neighbor in parentheses next to him. What role does Ned play?
I mean, I still think his cameras might be something that we see in this last episode. Because I feel like we talked about that. Why not? They're going to reveal something. And then I think he's got their baby hidden away in his little panic room.
He's got their what?
The baby.
What do you think, Eve?
I think I love how Jeanette just said baby, but
she says it that way every time.
I know.
The way you say it.
Where am I reading? Okay. I don't think he's relevant to Luke's disappearance, except to be used as a scapegoat and or possibly be the one who helps put the pieces together thanks to his cameras. Or maybe Ned is a whole nice giant ring pop.
Maybe
Could
he
be.
served his purpose already.
Yeah,
It's
maybe his
possible.
purpose has been served already, and that's all we're gonna get. But I feel like there's maybe just a tiny bit more to Ned's involvement
Mm-hmm.
that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I think there's got to be. I think Debbie and Ned featured so heavily and now are kind of radio silent that it makes me suspicious.
Yeah.
I think Ned, his security tapes will shine a light, and maybe Luke reached out to him. He will be a scapegoat for Steve, I think, or at least Steve hopes to use him that way. So the next question is, what is Debbie sick with? Now let's read exactly what we wrote. What is Debbie sick with, Jeanette?
I said, no idea. Will they even mention this again? 'Cause I
Mine
don't think they're
says,
going to.
Mine says, guess we'll find out next week. Or will they not fill in this plot hole?
Okay, same thing. Then.
And
then
Eve says,
Not a clue. Glad she's better. I'm just really confused about this whole Debbie thing because it seemed to be a big thing.
yeah, because she had that
the
giant
first-
pillbox. Like
The first-
it was like my grandpa's, y'all. It was like a big pillbox.
like the first half of this season, they seem to be making a big deal about
absolutely.
Like I
That
didn't think
was
Debbie
it.
was gonna make it.
She
This is
had-
how big of a deal. Like they
and
made
she
it.
has these pills and everything, and now all of a sudden it's like nothing. Also, where on earth is Lily? She was back.
She's at Olivia's again.
I was gonna say she's at Olivia's.
She was back for one episode, and now she's gone again. So maybe she's
I'm still saying
I don't
maybe Lily
maybe
did
she
it.
has the baby.
Maybe that's why
There
he
you
was
go.
so surprised that Lily showed up at the dock because she doesn't have her driver's license. This is why Luke was like, I really didn't think you'd show up.
You know, we started this episode. Each one of us thought of 2 people that showed up at the dock. We're at the end of this episode, and we've got like a list of 17 people who could have showed up there.
I mean,
Well,
it's
you know what? They're giving us next to nothing.
it's
so
bound to be
I
one of them.
It's true. We're all gonna be wrong.
Somebody showed up at that dock. Okay, we saw their legs. So.
What if that's just his imagination? What if we end up seeing him fight
Oh
with
my
Nero?
gosh.
What if it's Keanu Reeves who just shows up?
I would like that actually. Let's do that.
Of course, he's surprised that Nero showed up.
I'd be okay with that. Bring
I-
Keanu Reeves.
That would explain why he's in the water by himself and there's nobody on the dock
like fighting
because he's
Yeah,
fighting with himself.
somebody's trying to drown him. Yeah.
All right, so last question is one of those pills, and I think this is the last time we need to answer this because it did match. She grabbed them. The only reason we left it in this week is because
Yeah.
we see Isabella grab that exact pill bottle off. They made a point of showing the pill bottle.
Yeah.
It's almost like they hear us asking these questions retroactively,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "Oh shoot, FFC asked this question. We got to make sure we hyper focus on that this week."
I mean, I'm sure
Thanks,
that's
guys.
the case, right?
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
So next week will be the final episode of season 2 of Cruel Summer. I'm gonna miss these
I'm
because
sad.
they really it was funny that all of us in the beginning were kind of like, it wasn't as immediately good as the last one, but this has left us more like
It's
I must
better.
figure out what this is more than the last one did.
It's better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I still stand by. I like some of my characters last season a little
Mhm.
bit better,
Absolutely.
but the storyline is so much better.
Mm-hmm. And this one
So-
involves a murder, so
And
possibly,
murder,
or did it?
maybe
That's why this
not.
scene is good because we can't even say definitively what it's about. We have no idea. We at least knew that Kate was abducted. We knew where
Someone
she was
might
at
have
Martin's
died,
house.
or they didn't. We don't know.
Well, with last season, we knew the 2 big things for a really
Mhm.
long time that
Uh-huh.
Kate disappeared somehow, and
Yes.
that Martin was creepy as anything.
We knew
It was his
Martin
own fault
was
for being
bad.
good looking.
Do miss Blakely.
The
That's such a
diff-
lot.
The difference there was that last season they gave us the beginning and they gave us the end, and then we were trying to fit together all the pieces in between. This season, they didn't actually give us the end. They got us what they want us to believe is the end, and then they kept changing it as the season went. So I think that's the difference here. That's what's driving us all insane in a good way, not in a bad way. It's keeping us. I think that some of us had said that now we're thinking about it in the middle of the night.
I am. I wake up sometimes and I think about it. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm gonna need this. Let's get this strike over with. Let's get started on season 3 because
Yes, please.
I'm ready already.
So next week will be the final one. We will see who's right and who's wrong. And honestly, I can't keep track of how many times my theories have changed. I mean, we started, I think it was only halfway through when we started keeping track of our theories. So there's a whole bunch.
No.
There's the big ones that I can remember, like Trevor did it. And did what? I don't know. Trevor's responsible for something. And
If the
Luke is alive.
sheriff is involved, I get that
Mhm.
award because I'm the only one that's really stuck on that one so far.
Yes.
Just saying.
Something.
can have
something.
Come on, Sheriff Meyer.
I will
And the
present-
baby's alive.
And if the baby's alive, because I started that thing too.
Yes,
so
you did. What did you say, Eve?
I will present Jeanette an award if she was right
Yay.
about those two things, or even one of those things.
I hope
We
so.
did last week, by the way, we did crow about how right Eve was. I don't remember what you were right about, but we did say we read
That
exactly what you wrote. I'm right.
Isabella brought the gun.
Yes.
Yep.
So we
I was
did.
like, I knew it. I was right about at least one thing, and if that's the only thing I'm right about this
That's
season,
right.
which is 100% a possibility,
Yeah.
Exactly.
then I'm okay with that.
And we did say that Jeanette was like, well, if I would have been on there, I would have jumped on that bandwagon too. I did say that as we heard you talk, Amanda, like, oh, I like Eve's idea. I'm going to go with Eve's idea.
Yeah, as I was listening, I was like, oh, I like that. Yeah, that's better than him shooting his own ear. Let's do that.
Well, really, anything was better than him shooting his own ear, because that's all I had for a while, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense, but that's all we've got, so that's what it is.
My favorite thing about that theory was both of you would write every week, he shoots his own ear. I know it doesn't make sense. I haven't figured that part out yet. And then with Debbie being sick, it was, I don't know, something that requires a lot of pills.
We don't know.
All right, so this is the last one you're going to get from us. That is a honest to goodness theory session. Next week, next Friday, we are coming at you with our final Cruel Summer. We are going to give you a comprehensive review of what we thought about the season. We'll tell you, I think we're going to have to talk about what actually happened. I was thinking maybe we won't tell you what happened, but we're going to have to tell you what happens.
There's
Sorry,
no
if
way
you're not
I
on
can't do that.
If you're not on that train, if you're not on the boat, maybe don't listen next week, but we are going to tell you what happened because we want to be like, hey, we were wrong. Oh, I never would have thought of this, whatever. So next week, tune in for that. There will be spoilers, so make sure you are caught up before you listen to it next week. Wednesday, we are coming at you with it's going to be me, Eve, and Amanda coming at you next Wednesday with, I'm really excited about this one, with the Netflix lifestyle reality shows. I don't think I've been this excited to talk about Netflix shows.
Oh no, I've been like waiting and waiting for recording, so
next Wednesday, you're getting that with me, Eve, and Amanda. Stay tuned for our final episode of our Netflix shows after that, which we'll be talking about feel-good movies. And then we have one more episode this summer coming at you before we take a little break. And that is a review of The Summer I Turned Pretty. So make sure you are watching that. Comes out Thursdays does it come out at 8 Eastern?
Yes.
8 Eastern, 7 Central on Thursdays on Amazon Prime. Now, we know it's not a regular streaming session or channel that we talk about, but throughout the strikes, we will be talking about several streaming platforms and shows that are available on them. So make sure you watch that before you hear our review, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
bye.
Loving our content? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to share our podcast with your family and friends. We want to continue the conversation with you. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok under Fandom Family Chats, or one of our ever-growing Facebook groups by searching Family Fan Club. We've also launched a website, Family Fan Club 2021 at Wixsite.com. You can email us there and keep checking it for announcements and merch coming soon. And of course, be sure to tune in every week for new episodes discussing all your favorite shows.